Play it once, Sam. For all time's sake.
I don't know what you mean, Miss Elsa.
Play it, Sam.
She was the darling of Tinseltown, adored by millions, only to have it all come crashing down in an instant. One moment she was Hollywood's golden girl, the next she was branded a horrible example of womanhood by a United States senator. Ingrid Bergman would do something so scandalous that it would turn an entire nation against her. Dark secrets lurked behind that luminous smile, but what was it that caused such a spectacular fall from grace? Ingrid Bergman's life was marked by tragedy from the start. Her mother died when she was just 2 years old, leaving her father to raise her alone. When Bergman was 14, her father also passed away from stomach cancer, leaving her an orphan. These early losses perhaps fueled the passion and intensity that would later define her both on and off the screen. Despite her difficult childhood, Bergman's love for acting blossomed early. At 17, she won a scholarship from the Royal Dramatic Theatre School in Stockholm. However, her ambition outpaced her patience for formal education. When she landed a speaking role in a film, she dropped out of school, shocking her teachers by setting the stage for her meteoric rise. Bergman's American debut in 1939's Intermezzo was an instant success. Her natural beauty and unaffected acting style quickly made her a favorite with audiences and critics alike. Unlike many starlets of the era, Bergman refused to conform to Hollywood's glamour standards. She declined to pluck her eyebrows, wear heavy makeup, or change her name, a decision that initially set her apart from her peers. Bergman's rise to stardom coincided with one of the most tumultuous periods in Hollywood history. The 1940s saw the film industry grappling with the aftermath of the Great Depression, the impact of World War II, and the looming threat of television. It was in this crucible that Bergman forged her career, navigating the complex politics of the studio system and the ever-changing tastes of the American public. Her rapid ascent wasn't without challenges. Despite her natural talent, Bergman struggled with English in her early Hollywood years. She worked tirelessly with a dialect coach to perfect her accent, often spending hours rehearsing lines long after her co-stars had left the set. This dedication to her craft quickly earned her the respect of directors and fellow actors alike. One of Bergman's most significant early roles came in 1941's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Initially cast as the wholesome Beatrix Emery, Bergman lobbied director Victor Fleming to let her play the sultry barmaid Ivy Peterson instead. This decision showcased Bergman's desire to break free from the good girl image Hollywood was so eager to impose on her.
Afraid? Why should I be afraid?
Well, I don't know. I just thought.
Well, I ain't afraid of nobody.
But you ain't been out for ever so long, have you?
It also hinted at the complexity and depth she would bring to her future roles. In 1943, Bergman starred in For Whom the Bell Tolls, opposite Gary Cooper. The film, based on Ernest Hemingway's novel, was a critical and commercial success. Hemingway himself had insisted that Bergman play the role of Maria, saying, "Miss Bergman is the only actress who can play Maria, and no one else." This endorsement from one of America's most respected authors further cemented Bergman's status as a serious actress. As Bergman's star rose, so did the public's fascination with her personal life. The press painted her as the antithesis of the typical Hollywood starlet, humble, hardworking, and devoted to her craft. This image was carefully cultivated by both Bergman herself and the studio publicity machine. However, it would eventually prove to be a double-edged sword, setting impossibly high standards that would make her later fall from grace all the more shocking. Behind the scenes, Bergman was growing increasingly frustrated with the limitations of her roles. She longed to play more complex, challenging characters. This desire led her to seek out collaborations with directors known for their artistic integrity and willingness to push boundaries. None would have a more profound impact on her career and personal life than Alfred Hitchcock. Hitchcock cast Bergman in 3 of his films: Spellbound in 1945, Notorious in 1946, and Under Capricorn in 1949. The director was famously obsessed with Bergman, describing her as a snow-covered volcano, cool and composed on the outside, but with hidden depths of passion. This dynamic tension between Bergman's public image and her true nature would become a recurring theme in her work with Hitchcock. In Spellbound, Bergman played Dr. Constance Peterson, a psychoanalyst who falls in love with an amnesiac patient, Gregory Peck, suspected of murder. The film delved into themes of repressed memories and psychosexual trauma, allowing Bergman to showcase a more mature, complex side of her acting abilities. It was during the filming of Spellbound that Bergman and Peck began their affair, a secret that would remain hidden for decades. Notorious saw Bergman in perhaps her most morally ambiguous role to date. As Alicia Huberman, the daughter of a Nazi spy recruited by American intelligence, Bergman's character was asked to seduce and marry a Nazi collaborator, Claude Rains, to gather information. The film pushed the boundaries of the production code with its suggestive scenes and complex moral dilemmas. Bergman's performance was lauded for its nuance and depth, further establishing her as one of Hollywood's most versatile actresses. While Bergman's professional life was reaching new heights, her personal life was becoming increasingly complicated. Her marriage to Peter Lindstrom, once a source of stability, was growing strained. Lindstrom, who had given up his dental practice to manage his wife's career, found himself increasingly at odds with the demands of Hollywood life. The couple's daughter, Pia, born in 1938, often found herself caught in the middle of her parents' growing estrangement. Despite these personal challenges, Bergman continued to seek out challenging roles. In 1948, she fulfilled a long-held dream by portraying Joan of Arc in Victor Fleming's epic film of the same name. Bergman had previously played the role on Broadway in Joan of Lorraine, and had long been fascinated by the historical figure. The film was a passion project for Bergman, who even invested her own money into the production. However, Joan of Arc received mixed reviews and performed poorly at the box office, marking one of the first significant setbacks of Bergman's career. It was the aftermath of Joan of Arc that Bergman began to feel increasingly restless and unfulfilled. The roles she was being offered in Hollywood seemed repetitive and lacking in depth. She longed for a new challenge, a way to reinvigorate her passion for acting. This desire for change would ultimately lead her to make the fateful decision to write to Roberto Rossellini. Rossellini was at the forefront of the Italian neo-realist movement, creating gritty, realistic films that were a world away from the glossy productions of Hollywood. Bergman had been deeply impressed by Rossellini's film Rome, Open City, and saw in his work a rawness and authenticity that she felt was lacking in her own career. Her letter to Rossellini, in which she offered her services as an actress, would change the course of both their lives. The collaboration between Bergman and Rossellini began with Stromboli in 1950, a film about a Lithuanian refugee who marries an Italian fisherman to escape an internment camp. The film's production was difficult and fraught with challenges, not least of which was the growing attraction between director and star. Bergman, still married to Lindstrom, found herself drawn to Rossellini's passionate, volatile nature, a stark contrast to her steady, reliable husband. As filming progressed, it became clear that Bergman and Rossellini's relationship had become more than professional. News of their affair, and Bergman's subsequent pregnancy, broke while Stromboli was still in production. The scandal that ensued was unprecedented in its intensity and reach. Bergman was even denounced on the floor of the U.S. Senate. Senator Edwin C. Johnson of Colorado called her a powerful influence for evil and suggested she be barred from entering the United States. Bergman went from America's sweetheart to persona non grata overnight. The American public, who had long idolized Bergman as the epitome of wholesomeness and virtue, felt betrayed. Columnists who had once sung her praises now condemned her in the harshest terms. Even religious leaders joined in the chorus of disapproval, with one prominent Catholic bishop declaring that Bergman had perpetrated an assault upon the institution of marriage. The backlash wasn't limited to moral outrage. There were real, tangible consequences for Bergman's career. Her latest film, Joan of Arc, was pulled from many theaters. Plans for future projects were cancelled. Even her previous films became controversial, with some theaters refusing to show them. In the face of this overwhelming negativity, Bergman made a decision that would define the next chapter of her life. Rather than apologize or attempt to salvage her Hollywood career, she chose to embrace her new life with Rossellini in Italy. She divorced Lindstrom, married Rossellini, and committed herself to making films in Europe. For 7 long years, Bergman remained in exile, making films in Europe that failed to match her early successes. She missed her daughter from her first marriage, Pia, who remained in the United States with her father. The pain of separation was compounded by the knowledge that Pia was reading about her mother's immoral behavior in the tabloids. Bergman's relationship with Rossellini was tumultuous from the start. He was possessive and controlling, limiting Bergman's career to his own often unsuccessful projects. In 1952, they had twin daughters, Isabella and Isotta. Despite the growing family, their marriage was strained by Rossellini's demanding nature and Bergman's frustration with her stalled career. Just when it seemed Bergman's career was over for good, an unexpected opportunity arose. Producer Buddy Adler offered her the lead role in Anastasia, a Hollywood production to be filmed in Europe. It was a chance at redemption, but would the American public be willing to forgive and forget? The gamble paid off. Anastasia was a hit, and Bergman's performance was universally praised. She won her second Academy Award for the role, accepted on her behalf by Cary Grant.
The winner, Ingrid Bergman in Anastasia.
The prodigal daughter of Hollywood had returned in triumph. Bergman's comeback was complete. She continued to work in both Hollywood and European productions, winning a third Oscar for Murder on the Orient Express in 1974. But the scars of her scandal remained, influencing her choices of roles and her relationships for the rest of her life. Even after her death, Bergman's life continued to generate controversy. In 1980, she published her autobiography, My Story, in which she unapologetically defended her life choices. She wrote, "I've gone from saint to whore and back to saint again, all in one lifetime."